Good morning, Four Corners. Thanks for joining us once again for Coffee and Conversation this Friday morning. I'd love for you to take just a moment and as you're watching this, like, share, comment. We really like your feedback. And if you do that, it helps get the word out for your friends to see what we're doing. It might encourage them as well.
Jill, this Sunday is Mother's Day, and there's a lot that comes to my mind about moms. We have so many great moms at our church. We have women at our church who aren't biological moms, they haven't adopted.
Yeah.
They kind of serve as spiritual moms for a lot of people as well.
Yes.
So in our church, we just make this kind of a Women's Day.
Right.
But before we jump into that, because we have some great things to talk about, I thought I would share the greatest dad joke I've heard this week.
I don't think I know this one. Go ahead.
All right. So,
yeah, I'm scared.
What do you do for a person who is injured in a peekaboo accident?
Go ahead.
You take them to the ICU. Part of being a mom in our family has been
putting up with dad jokes.
My silly
Right.
humor.
And laughing and pretending they're funny.
And I appreciate it so much. Today, though, we're going to talk about, in honor of kind of moms, what are a handful of things that you wish you could today go back in time and tell your younger self? So what do you wish you could tell your younger self? Because I want to tell you something. You've been a very good mom, sincerely.
Thank you.
I've had the chance to walk this journey with you. I've seen you wrestle and grow. We've certainly have had moments where we've butted heads as parents and just as married people. And we're both pretty strong-willed, which is fine.
Yes.
But that role of being a mom, like in the Bible, is so important. And I almost hate to bring this up because there's a lot of pain associated sometimes with Mother's Day and with moms.
Yeah.
Because none of us had a perfect mom. That's just the truth. And you're great, but you're not perfect.
Right.
And that's why we're going to
Right.
have this conversation. So if for whatever reason your experience with mothering personally, or maybe not being able to be a mom, that's a big deal in our church. Or maybe your mom wasn't a biblically godly mom. I'm really sorry that happened to you. It breaks our hearts.
Yeah.
My mom was a good mom, not perfect. Yeah. And the older I get, I'm able to now embrace some of her imperfections with a little bit more joy.
Yeah.
But as you think about your journey as a mom, what are a couple of things that you would say to your younger self, kind of launching into this motherhood thing?
Sure. And when we talked about this topic and the idea of what would I say to my younger self, I have a whole lot of ideas that I would say to my younger self, but I think I've landed on just 4 to talk about briefly.
Okay.
And so the first one I would say to my younger self is, and all of these are kind of, I'm going to use the word normal since that is like a very popular word now, so I'm tying in the word normal to these.
Okay.
But to my younger self, it is going to be normal for the rest of your life that you're not going to sleep when you want to sleep or as much as you want to sleep. And so just get over it, get used to it. So one of my phrases for years is sleep is overrated.
Yeah.
I can sleep when I'm dead.
Right. And what are some of the dynamics in our family that made sleep difficult, and then when you could get it, it was precious? Because I made this worse. Can I be honest? There were times when our kids were little and like we were trying to take some kind of turns and share the responsibility.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't work for anybody.
No, friends, straight up, I would lie to her and tell her I'd gotten them the night before and I hadn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I consciously knew it all.
Or they really want you anyway. They'll
I
to sleep better with you. Or when they're young and they're nursing, they need you. Right.
And once I am a night owl and I'll get up early, but once I go to sleep, I need it, right? Well, you did too. So what else robbed you of like the sleep, like that made it difficult?
Well, I mean, just normal, routines that all moms, whether you're working or not, face. I mean, you still have to, have food in the refrigerator. You have to cook. You have to, have a, not a perfect house. And my house is certainly not perfect or dust-free at all. But we liked it to be presentable.
Yeah.
So there's that, and just in the school and backpacks and everything.
And we launched a church with 3 young kids. Our daughter was how old when
she was 10
when we started. Connor was about 5.
Yeah.
When we started.
Right.
And then we had
and John was 1, a baby.
Yeah, and Max was
3.
Yeah. So church isn't a business, but all the things that go into like launching a business, that entrepreneurial startup, we were there.
Yeah.
And so we were just chaotic and crazy, and there was always more to do. And sleep became a commodity that wasn't in adequate supply often.
Right.
But you came to terms with that emotionally. So you would be tired, but you learned how to just acknowledge it.
Right. And I learned that I cannot nap. I can't nap, and if I try to nap and I can't, or I try to nap and I am 10 minutes into a sleep and I get woke up, then I'm mad. So it's just not worth it. So I don't even try. I've never been a napper.
And then the other side of that is if you napped, you maybe could throw off the routine. So we tried to have as much routine as we could, but not necessarily you didn't get all the sleep. What's one more thing?
Another one is, so again, the normalcy of just, it's normal, you're not going to sleep much, Jill. Another one that I would, again, telling my younger self, I wish that I had raised the temperature so that prayer was a more normal first response for me. Ben was very good at taking situations that we had in the house. So, maybe I have actually a lot of memories of times that as a family, maybe we had argued and then we had like a family conversation explaining what happened. And then we would end it with prayer at your, suggestion to say, let's make this a spiritual moment for all of us. And, I remember times of like, if I knew the kids if I was dropping them off for an ACT or, if I knew they had a test, I'd pray with them, before they would leave the car and, things like that. But I wish I had raised the temperature on that for me with the kids so that I think they would say it's normal for us as a family to pray, but I just wish that temperature was, I wish it was a little more normal.
I think your phrase is helpful, that it was a first response. So we would often come to it later. It was certainly around us a lot. Prayer was normal over our food, still is, as a way to just keep that discipline in front.
Right.
But I want to tell you something. There's a lot of ways you can impact your kids, but one of the most powerful ways is when they hear you pray for them. They get to hear your heart. Yeah. You actually get to talk to God about very complex things, and it becomes normal then to invite God into the conversation. So this is something we've talked about that we wanted, and I can share this, is to make prayer more of the normal first response. In other words, it doesn't have to get to level 7. We're not at DEFCON, whatever the highest one is, 5 or 1. I can't ever. Yeah. But we don't have to get to the highest level of concern to go to God and just start talking about it. And so if we had done that, we feel like that maybe it would just be easier for our kids to understand what it looks like to have prayer, to be a part of their everyday life, normal stuff, not just extreme stuff with God. Yeah. Give me a third one.
A third one would be, so Jill, it should be normal that your kids are part of the everyday life of the house in terms of helping with stuff. That should be normal, that everybody helps, and that life doesn't revolve around them. It actually revolves around like the family and helping. And we've talked about it. I remember hearing you say stuff about, years ago when people had farms and, people had kids so that they could help on the farm. You had big families because you needed big families to help.
My mom is one of one man, one woman, 18 births. Yeah. She was number 17 of 18. And part of it was, I think they were bored, didn't know what else to do. The other part was they had a farm. And they weren't wealthy, and they had a lot of kids. Right. In part, just because big family meant greater capacity to meet the uncertainties of life. Right.
And somehow, over the years, that has certainly morphed into, people have kids, not near as many kids as they used to, but I don't think it's often normal thinking of, these kids were born and they're going to help us as a family do the things we need to do as a family. I think for so many people that I hear, and we've struggled with it too, let's make our family revolve around what they want. Yeah. And let's make our routine and our time revolve around what they want, not what is good for all of us.
Right. And it doesn't come from a bad place. So we want our kids to have a better life than we had. Right. Then we had to define what did that mean, because we defined it too simplistically. Better meant easier. The problem is if it's always easy, then when hard things come, and they always come, they don't know what to do with hard. Right. Better always meant whatever they want the agenda to be. But that's not necessarily better. One of my favorite verses that we've rallied around is, foolishness abounds in the heart of a child. I quote it all the time, and I'm a child often.
Me too.
And so what they want cannot be the thing that motivates and directs the attention of the family.
Right.
It can be a part. It can speak into it.
Right.
Now, Jill, I bet you there are a handful of people watching, and they can already relate to some of these.
Yeah.
So real quickly, let's not drop this topic, but real quickly, so far, what have we talked about?
So far we've talked about, I would tell my younger self that, sleep is a luxury. I would tell my younger self, make prayer more of a first response with your kids, with your husband. And then make, a normal process that everybody knows they're here to help the family, not be a lone island of life is about me.
Good. Okay, Jill, so why does helping out around the house and participating in the family responsibilities, how does that speak to this point that they're a part of a family and you wish we'd have done better at this?
I think for one thing, it's the responsibility of teaching them early that they're part of a family will just help them because, at some point they're launched into adulthood and they leave and, they need to not, I think at 18 go, oh wow, I have to do laundry. I have to do all these things. It should be something they're already a part of doing.
Yeah, yeah. We thought, I think, without thinking about it, and that was the problem. We hadn't thought about it. We hadn't prayed about it. We hadn't talked to other people who are further ahead. That if we are giving them a better life and it's always easier, better what they want, the problem is we discovered that left on their own, they wouldn't do much of anything.
Yeah.
So here we are launching a church. Here we are trying to do marriage. Here you have a career.
Yeah.
We have school, and our kids would come home, and we were housekeepers way too often.
And I think for both of us, you kind of automatically repeat what was done in your home.
That's right.
And in our home, my mom didn't work, and so she did pretty much all the cooking, the grocery shopping, the cleaning. We kept our own room, our own bedroom clean, but the corporate areas, mom did. Yeah. And I think the same was true in your house.
That's right.
Mom did.
My mom did a lot of that. And in me, one of my preferred love languages is acts of service. And so I would do it as an act of love, not realizing that sometimes, if you overdo it, the unintended consequence is they expect you to do it. And then when you say, look, it's actually not my job to clean your room. Now, I'm talking about a 3-year-old.
Right.
3-year-old, you start training.
There's age appropriate.
By the time a kid gets 13, 14, there's a lot of things they should be doing to contribute to the overall health of the family.
Right.
Because there's never going to be a group
Not
the
just
rest
their
of their
room.
life that they go to and just get the benefits from.
Yeah.
Being a member of any group doesn't just come with benefits, it comes with responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And we made the mistake of delaying the responsibility development, I think.
Yeah.
I say we, I think.
We learned over time.
Yeah. And now we caught up.
Right.
And then when I woke up to the reality, I brought the hammer, right? Which I overreacted. But the bottom line is we wanted our kids to come into adulthood knowing that any group you're a part of worth its salt, you're going to contribute. You're not taking. You're not a taker. You're a contributor. So you don't take from your family. You contribute to your family.
Right.
And our hope was that would be translated into life. All right, let's go on to the fourth one.
The fourth one is around the idea of, it should be, again, Jill, it should be normal that your kids know that you're going to side with dad. Mm. And if you, kind of flesh that out, it should be, normal that even if, there's disagreement between mom and dad, they're going to, agree in front of us and deal with it later. Mm-hmm. It should be normal that there's, harmony, encouragement of one another. We talk a lot, and we've talked on the stage too, that, we believe if there's, mom and dad argument, 50-50 doesn't always work.
Right.
It's
certainly not in front of the kids.
Right. So we, it's 51-49 in our house, and obviously 51 goes here.
Right. And that sounds like a little lopsided compared to some dynamics in a culture.
Right.
It actually scares me to death. I actually feel like the Lord looks at me as the head of the house and says, I'm holding you responsible. And so what we've decided and attempted to walk out and kind of woke up to some of the dynamics, the intricacies a little late, that we would love to have done earlier, was we stand together, and when we don't, we actually introduce confusion. And confusion never is the source of great things in a family, on a team, in a church. So when we stand together, and then we can shut the door, and we can listen and hear and respond and talk and plod through the issue, we walk out as a unit.
Right.
And so once we woke up to this, we came at it the way a lot of parents do, is The kid would go to mom and say one thing, come to me and say another. Or I'd say something, well, mom lets me. And then honestly, half the time they were kids just manipulating because foolishness abounds in the heart of a child.
And they learned quickly mom's a pushover.
I wasn't going to say that, but there is a sense in which you are a little more pliable
Yes.
in the hands of a well-skilled child
Yes.
than I am.
Right.
And I bring a certain amount of suspicion, I think, to the conversation anyway. No, we're not. So we've been a really good foil for each other that way. But your point here is, can I just tell you about a spiritual dynamic? And Jill's done great at this. I'm not sure that it was intuitive for either one of us, but there's so much in the family that, in our family, that our kids have learned from Jill, and there's so much they've learned from me. But one of the things that it was both of our jobs to do is teach our kids how to respond to authority. So you have to be careful here, and I don't mean like authoritarian.
Not a hammer authority.
Yeah,
right.
I don't mean that. But as we submit to one another, and as we submit to God's best for our family, our kids get to watch that dynamic. So as I'm trying to lead, if our kids sense that Jill's not on board, if he doesn't honor and respect that, then they learn it's okay and it's normal to buck authority. Now here's the thing. It is okay to buck a lot of authority.
Right.
It's
And
always okay to have a question and an opinion.
Right.
But families and teams and movements together don't work if authority is always undermined.
Right.
So we
It's
had to
always
both
questioned.
raise individuals who were sensitive to the abuse of authority and at the same time know what it is to be respectful of authority. That was a
Right.
big deal to us
Right.
with our kids.
For sure.
We have a bias for respecting authority, and we make authority convince us we shouldn't
Yeah.
before we reject it. We think that's a biblical way for disciples, and ultimately, we wanted our kids to know that there is a God, and they're not God.
Right. And that's the ultimate authority.
That is the ultimate authority.
Right.
And so they learn so much about, honestly, this is something you've done great. Our kids learn so much about the acceptance and the welcome and the value that God has for them from their moms. You've done great with that. The ease with which our kids can talk with you about very difficult things is really, really good. And so what we've discovered is when they want some comfort, and I welcome this, they often go to mom. And transparently, and Jill's one of the smartest women I know.
So I'll say this so it doesn't step. But when they want like wisdom in a situation, they go to dad.
Yeah, so when they're ready for the straight dope. Dad, give it to me hard.
What should I do here?
Give me a stick to
Right.
bite on and shoot it to me straight.
Right.
And that's okay. We work really, really well
yeah.
together. But we learned we had to morph into what does it mean to walk together
Right.
in some of the natural challenges because we came from different families
Right,
of
and
origin.
that it wasn't natural for me when I first got married, or the first several years of our marriage. The whole idea of showing solidarity in front of the kids when I disagreed. So I wish certainly I could go back to my younger self and say, do a better job with that.
Well, you made up for lost time. You've done a great job, and
You're too kind.
and we've learned.
By the way, what are you getting me for Mother's Day?
That was it right there. It was the cheapest. No, I'm kidding.
I like dark chocolate.
Yeah, I know. We're 30 years in. I think, we're good. You can expect some Dove chocolates minimally, all right? So that's one of your favorites.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So bottom line is when we get to Father's Day, I'm going to
Okay.
let you help me create a list of what you wish I would have learned
Sounds
earlier
good.
as
Sounds
a dad.
good. Am I writing it?
Yeah, you can write it, and then I'll go through, and we'll walk in solidarity together. So here's the thing, parents. It's real easy, moms, to get caught up in I wish I could overdo or redo. I wish I hadn't have. Some of that can be a source of good movement.
Yeah.
But don't get overly stuck. The truth is even if your kids are adults and out of the home, you can still work on the priorities that you want to work on.
Yeah.
We wanted our kids to always want to come home.
Right.
That home would be a place they'd look forward to.
Yeah.
We wanted our kids to always think about their role in whatever environment they're in and take it seriously. We didn't always do that well.
Right.
They didn't always see it perfect in us, but it's the kind of thing we kept returning to. So every time we would drift away, we try to come back. And sometimes we had to come back with apology and tears and occasionally gritted teeth. But we kept trying to come back to these points. And I want to tell you what you're doing, moms. Those of you in our church who maybe don't have kids, but you're like spiritually helping us grow disciples here. You're a spiritual parent. What you're doing is so important. It's so important. And there's no expectation that you have to be perfect. But this is why I think being a disciple who's a mom, being a disciple who's a wife, being a disciple who's a dad, a disciple who's a husband or a man or a woman, if you lead with I'm a disciple, then you've opened the door for God to speak with clarity into all those areas of life. And everywhere God speaks, here's Everywhere God speaks, there's grace. Thank God for grace. And there's truth. And when you're open to grace and truth, it's a powerful combination. So, Jill, one final thought. What would you say to ladies who would say, you know what, I haven't been a perfect mom, and I could write my own list.
Yeah.
What would you say to them as a word of encouragement today?
I would say I certainly have not been a perfect mom, and maybe one of these weeks in the future, maybe we can do the fails that we talk about now that are kind of funny family stories, but where I've clearly messed up.
My list is bigger than yours, so keep going. Thank you.
Okay. So I would say it's not too late, just like you referenced. Whatever age your kids are now.
Even if they're out of the home.
Even if they're out of the home, it's not too late to have conversations about things that you want to talk about. It's not too late to call them and say, hey, I was thinking about you. I know that I've never really done this before, but I'd love to just say a 30-second prayer for you so that you hear my heart for you.
Yeah. Prayer is certainly more a part of what we're doing these days.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm most enjoying, I'll drop this last little tidbit, we have a family text group. It's called Family. I think there are some either praying hands or clapping hands. I don't know if that represents the phases. We're happy, we're in desperation. But they kind of mark our family group title when it comes up on my phone. But I love it when the kids are engaged and they send me funny stuff, and it's always stupid. But I love it. That's my kind of humor. It doesn't have to be highbrow. The more highbrow, the less I get it. So we keep it very, very base. But just the simple ongoing communication is such a gift.
It's fun.
Hey, Four Corners Church, thanks for joining us. We love you. We miss seeing you on our campus. That will happen soon enough. But until then, we're the church. We're glad to be with you. Let's say bye.
Happy Mother's Day.
See ya. Bye-bye.